Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are interested in learning how to make kombucha, then stay tuned. Welcome back to Velvet Road's Homestead. I'm Andrea and I'm going to be teaching you guys how I make my kombucha. Typically, the day before I process my kombucha, I will make up a batch of sweet tea. Now, by sweet tea, I don't mean like the southern style sweet tea that is like so sweet you can hardly drink it. I just mean a mixture of black tea and oolong tea and some sugar. I'm going to go grab those things and I'll meet you back right here. It's really important with your kombucha not to use gross water because, that would make it gross, right? So I make sure that I fill up my stock pot. I fill it up with our Berkey filter, and I'm just gonna fill it up to probably an inch from the top. All right, now that I've got my water in my pot, what I'm gonna do is turn it on high and go measure out my sugar. So if you're making kombucha, you probably already know what a Scoby is, but if you don't, it's a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. Now, in order to make kombucha, you need to have a Scoby. A Scoby feeds on sugar, and that's why we add the sugar when we're making the tea. But I have found for the amount of tea that I use in the vessel size that I have, one to a cup and a half is usually just about right. For the tea that I use the Prince of Peace organic tea. I just love using their tea, but I will link below the type of tea that I use so that you guys can check it out. If all you have is black tea will work great. I use 7 to 8 bags of the oolong organic tea and 7 to 8 bags of the black tea. This is the type of tea that I use. I usually buy a pack of 2, and each one comes with 100 bags. Once the water starts to boil and the tea starts to seep into the water, I usually turn the heat off and put a lid on it and move it off of the burner to let it sit all night and come back to room temperature. I just want to say, I'm a normal person. My kitchen is always being used, being worked in. I clean as I go, but there's only so much I can get done with a toddler. I've got a bread processing or rising, bulk rising. I've got another bread rising. I've got dirty dishes. Let's see, what else do I have in my kitchen? Oh, clean dishes that need to be put away. And kombucha brewing. So the biggest thing about kombucha that I found is I wanted to do it for so long, and I kept telling my friend who had a Scoby, I was like, okay, when you're ready, give me your Scoby and teach me how to do it. And she was like, you don't really need to know how to do it, you just do it. And I find that that's usually how it works with most things, is you don't need to know exactly how to do it, you just kind of do it. I am also that type of person who learns better by doing things, and so I can read a bunch of blogs, watch a bunch of YouTube videos, which I do, trying to learn how to do these things and these basic skills, and I don't actually retain any of that knowledge until it's put to the test as far as like doing it. So what I found that works with my kombucha is like what I do. Like, I don't know anyone who does it the way that I do. I just kind of throw things together and let it be. It always turns out, it always is fizzy. It is just always delicious. I mean, unless I let it process too long, then it kind of tastes a little bit sour, like, you know, that vinegar kind of taste. You just mix it with a little juice and then you'll be good to go. But my encouragement for any of you who are really wanting to do it, that think that maybe you're too busy or you just don't have the knowledge or whatever your excuse is, just do it. Just get it done, try it once, and see if you like it. That's how it was with sourdough. That's how it's been with all my fermentation stuff. Is I wanted to do it, I just wasn't confident that I could, or that I would have the time to do it. So be encouraged. You can do it if I can do it. All right, so it's the day after I made my tea for the kombucha. And so I'm going to walk you through my process of making a new batch. Starting from scratch, meaning you've never done it before, the first thing that you're going to need is a Scoby. A Scoby is called a mother. It's like the mother organism, and then each batch you'll have a daughter or like a secondary Scoby that grows on top. You can either discard, you can give it away, you can feed it to your chickens, you can freeze it. I'm sure if you Google how to use a Scoby rather than making kombucha, you will find a lot of different ways. So what I've done is I went ahead and grabbed my Scoby out of the fermented tea that I have sitting here on my counter. I'm going to now pour all of my processed kombucha, the already fermented tea. I'm gonna pour that into my kombucha jars and set some aside for a second ferment, and then put some aside in the refrigerator just to drink offhand. Okay. I do want to note that all of these jars I did not just go out and purchase right off the bat. I used mason jars for a long time, and then pretty sure I was gifted some of these swing top ones. I think I found a few at Ross or Marshall's. So you don't have to go out and buy a big case of these. You can find them secondhand, lots of places. And they do sell on Amazon like replaceable swing tops that you can get so that you know that they're sealing. Or if you ever purchase kombucha from the store, you can keep those jars and use those and refill them. So that's what I'm going to be doing now. I just made sure I stirred up all of the yummy bacteria and the stuff in my jar before I transfer it into these jugs, so that way I can keep some of that good probiotic in my single vessels. Another thing to note that I'm going to be doing, and if you're starting out by making your first batch, this is not necessary, it just helps it go faster. I'm gonna pull out some starter liquid to put in the tea that I brewed from yesterday. So that's my first step before I transfer it into the single jars. Okay, this jar I'm using for my second ferment, so I'm going to fill it up as much as I have, and I'm going to make sure I leave quite a bit of headspace so that it has room for carbonation, and this is the one that I'm going to use for a flavor. now I'm taking the tea that I brewed yesterday and I'm going to be putting it in this big vessel. And then I'm going to take my starter tea and I'm gonna pour it in there. And then I'm gonna top it with a Scoby. So the last step is to cover it with something that is breathable. I always use cloth. Some people use cheesecloth, but as long as it is breathable, like this is my smaller one that I use because I thought it was cute. Obviously, I'm gonna need to make a bigger batch of tea next time. I upgraded my jar, my vessel, so it was twice as big, and I wasn't accounting for that upgrade. So I'm gonna go ahead and make some more tea and do another batch and get that going. But in the meantime, let's taste that kombucha. Cheers. It's so fizzy. I just want to note, drinking kombucha out of a fancy glass makes it worth it. Now that I have my kombucha all put in the jar, I'm going to go set it in my dining room for, I usually do it every 2 weeks, but that's because my house is kept pretty cool. During the summertime, it goes every week or every couple days if it's hot. So it really likes like 70 degrees. It's like a perfect temperature. Just with any fermented food, the warmer the temperature, the faster it eats through the sugar, the food that it has. And so you might just want to taste it depending on your, like the climate of your home. Just do taste tests and make sure that it's to liking. We like ours a little bit tart, so I let it go extra long, but you're gonna wanna store it somewhere dark, like not in direct sunlight for, a week, 2 weeks, depending on your climate, and then process it according to your taste. But I'm so excited that I have a giant jar now. So this is what it looks like after I've added everything to it. And I'm gonna go put a cap on it and then set it on my counter. All of the supplies that I used today will be listed in the description box below. So check those links out if you're interested in any getting your own sort of setup, and ask around. Try and get a starter from a friend, a Scoby from a friend, and maybe name it, because that's fun. So feel free to check out those links. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time. Coming up, I do have a video coming out about how to ferment red onions and jalapenos, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And again, thanks for joining me today. Hope to see you next time.